This movie sucks. Hey, what's going on, people? Welcome back to Small Couch Reviews. Thank you so much for clicking on this video to hear my thoughts about Venom 3, The Last Dance. Now, shout out to Jovi. It is his anniversary. That's why I'm doing this dolo yet again. He's obviously busy. But he was more excited about this than I was, admittedly. But I went into it with an open mind. And I said sucks to open. Sucks it's kind of harsh. The movie's fine. And it probably is the best of the three Venom movies. But it's just frustrating because it's like it still makes the same frustrating mistakes as the first two. It's almost as if they didn't learn. Or maybe they realize people are going to pay for what they have. So maybe they don't need to learn because these movies make a lot of money and it's just me. But hey, it is what it is. But there are still so many pacing and narrative, and in this one, like continuity issues that just like take me out of the movie. And yeah, we're gonna get right into it, man. I'm not gonna do sour and sweet like I normally do. I'm just kind of gonna word vomit my thoughts on what I just watched. Okay, so the narrative this time around. At the beginning of the movie, they basically retcon the whole idea that Eddie Brock is joining the MCU, which I liked. It's kind of like at the end of Spider-Man: No Way Home, we saw him in that bar in Mexico, and then he gets sucked back into his world. Yeah, that happens here. He gets sucked back into his world, and they're basically like, I think they directly said, I think there's a line that says something like "F the or F the multiverse," like so. Eddie's back in his his universe, and I guess they're nixing the whole Spider-Man plan. So whatever that may have been. I actually did like that touch. I found that amusing. Now, at the very beginning of this movie, there's an exposition dump. The bad guy of this movie is some ancient, evil, dark lord older than the universe who created the symbiotes a long time ago. And then they locked him in a prison because he was so evil a long time ago. And he's been there ever since. And now in this movie, he has decided it's the time for him to break out. So he creates another creature called a xenophage to hunt the symbiotes because one of them has the key that can let him out of his prison. 3 guesses which symbiote has that key. Now, Eddie himself is a fugitive in this movie because he has been accused of killing somebody from the last movie, Let There Be Carnage. So he and Venom are now on a trip from the West Coast to New York because there's a judge in New York they think can help them out of the situation. We also have Reese Ifans as or Ifans. Otto Hightower is what you might know him as from House of Dragon these days. But he plays a hippie. He's actually quite good. He's a hippie with his family who is on their way to Area 51 because he believes in aliens and he wants to find some proof before Area 51 shuts down, which that's happening in this movie. So he meets Eddie as Eddie is going, to the east, and he invites Eddie with his family on the RV, and they'll take him as far as they can go, so they have some bonding there. We also have Chiwetel Ejiofor and Juno Temple, Ted Lasso. They are a general and scientist, respectively. They work for some unknown military or secret agency that is hunting and studying symbiotes. So Chiwetel Ejiofor and his soldiers capture them, then Juno Temple's team studies them. So that is how they, obviously get involved with Eddie because he has a symbiote and they want it. Now, if it sounded like I just said a lot, it's because I did. There are way too many cooks in the kitchen on this one, man. I mean, so Reese Ifans, that's how I'm going to say his name. He at least is funny. He had almost outside of Eddie, almost all the comic relief came from him. Like I actually enjoyed his character, and this movie made me laugh way more than the second one. So this movie's definitely better than the second one, like hands down. And I think I might have laughed at this one more than I laughed at any of the other, the prior two, mainly because of him. He's very entertaining. He does a good job showing himself as a man who cares about his family. So I actually dug that aspect, even if that is the one dimension they showed. Chiwetel Ejiofor and Juno Temple, however, they're not as fortunate. So he is just the generic angry soldier who hates everything except his soldiers that are under him, and he's gonna do whatever it takes. The mission always comes first, and blah blah blah, all that jazz. So you can basically guess what his character's like. And then she is like, they try to give her an arc, but it just doesn't work well. So we have like a brief flashback where she's a kid and her and her brother are looking at the stars, and he dreams of joining NASA and becoming a scientist, but then he like dies in a lightning storm. So she becomes a scientist and instead and is studying these symbiotes in his memory, I guess. It's not really clear how what she's doing correlates to what her brother wanted. And the movie really tries to make this seem like it's important, and it's just not. Similarly to how they try to make the clandestine meetings Chiwetel Ejiofor's general has with unknown faces as important, but they're not. You know, it's not really like a movie sin that they're just basic and generic. It's more so annoying that the movie tries to make them seem like they're important and have depth when they don't. You don't have to do that. We know what this movie is. We know what we're here for. You didn't have to try to make these characters seem important and make it, and, you know, try to make the audience think, oh, you know what, maybe they have something that's coming in the end. Maybe there's going to be something deeper. There's not. The movie is about Eddie and Venom. They're buddies and they're on an adventure. Just like the second one, just like the first one. It's what sells, you know? So I'm not even mad at that. And they've really hit their stride here. I really like Tom Hardy's portrayal of both characters. But this is also a superhero movie. And, you know, in addition to being a buddy movie, and there ain't a lot of superheroing in here. Now, the movie gives a good narrative reason for that. The Dark Lord, you know, who sent these things to hunt the symbiotes. These things can see symbiotes when they are fully transformed. So if Venom fully becomes Venom, it can track that thing, can track him, find him, and basically kill him. So they're like, well, so Venom's like, well, I can't fully come out, but I could come out partially. So, you know, he can transform his arm or his leg or get the tentacles or whatever. So they could have still had some fun with that, but they just choose not to. And, you know, this movie is less than 2 hours, and I was checking my watch because honestly, until like Act 3, there ain't a whole lot of action in this movie, to be honest with you. And that leads to the pacing. The pacing in this movie is terrible. So, like I said, at the very beginning, we get this exposition dump, you know, which, you know, whatever, you know, I'm not even mad at that point. He gets the movie started. But then Eddie just spends a lot of his time basically meandering around doing nothing as he tries to get from the West Coast to New York. You know, he's out at barbecues, he's drinking in bars, you see in the trailer, like he's riding a horse. He has he's literally singing a song, like a full song with this family as they're riding in their RV. You see him gamble at the slot machines in Vegas. He dances with his old neighbor. I mean, this is all in the trailer. It's not really a big spoiler. He dances with his neighbor, which is one of the like cringiest and dumbest scenes. That's a continuity thing, so I'll explain that later. And it's just like, bro, when are you going to do something superhero-ish, or, you know, just get to the point of this movie? Because it started literally, the very beginning was this deep, dark voice telling us what he wanted. So you think that would be the focus of the movie, and it's just like, you know, plot C in this movie. So the pacing's not great. And then for continuity, there are just a couple things that I'm going to give you a couple examples of things that happened in this movie that made us scratch our head. Because I was talking to somebody after, and we both thought the same thing. Like, for one thing, in the last act, Venom uses a device that there is no way he would know existed or how to use. Like, you know, him figuring out how to use it is less egregious than him knowing that it exists, because there's literally no way it could exist. He would know. I'm sorry. There's no way he knows it would exist. And it plays a major part in the third act. And you're like, how did you do that? Also, something that bothers me, these creatures that, you know, are hunting the symbiotes, they can't really, like, they see like in black and white. And when Venom is fully Venom, he glows. So that's how they track him, because like he's glowing differently than everyone else. These creatures seem to just have no rhyme or reason for when they're going to attack regular humans and when they're not. Because, you know, like I said, the symbiotes glow. So when he transforms back in regular Eddie, it can't see him as a symbiote, but it still knows there are people there. So sometimes it'll attack, sometimes it won't, and it's just there's no consistency. You know, I can hear myself complaining about like the frames of this movie, so I'm just going to stop there. But just know the same issues that existed in the first one exist in this one. But there are a couple of things that are good. So, like I said, man, Tom Hardy, there are some people who do not like that he took this role. I'm not one of them. I actually think he's a pretty great Eddie Brock. And the fact that he does, you know, he does both Eddie Brock and Venom, you can't give him enough credit for it. He's very fantastic. Their dynamic is what makes the movie. It's funny. I love it. Even though it's not exactly what I expected from a Venom movie, but, you know, it is entertaining nonetheless. I said the movie's funny. The movie is funny, man. Like I didn't just chuckle. I like full out laughed at a lot of jokes in this movie. So there is that. And then the third act, the action was actually pretty cool. It's some crazy stuff and crazy CGI stuff. I mean, there are a couple things that you're gonna have to turn your brain off for, but it actually does deliver on some, you know, pretty cool stunts in there. Even though there are just a ton of kind of like cheesy moments, but hey, what can you say? So, hey, I probably should have put this at the beginning of the video. Long and short of it, if you like the first two, you're gonna like this one. If you didn't like the first two, I'm not sure this one is really gonna change your mind. I do think it was a nice little bookend to this whole Venom trilogy. I really did like where they left, you know, Eddie at the end of it. I thought it was pretty sweet. So yeah, if I were to rate this, I mean, this one, I'm just gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I think this one is mid. I don't know what we gave the others, but this one is 3, and the other two would probably be lower in my scale today. So that is what it is, man. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Until next time. I'm out. Oh, actually, before I leave, I always forget this. If you like what you see, please hit that little subscribe button and the bell. And as always, leave your comments right down there. We read every comment. All right. Appreciate you guys. Peace.